The Tellarites' warships hung in the void above Earth, poised to unleash hell. For millennia, this ruthless alien empire had terrorized the galaxy, enslaving countless worlds with their advanced technology. But they had never faced a prey like humanity before. As Commander Karos prepared to give the order to annihilate the planet's population centers, his scanner technician called out an alarm. A swarm of small, nimble Earth fighter craft were launching from the surface, far more than their projections had predicted these primitives could muster. Karos watched in disbelief as the determined humans swarmed his ships, weaving and dodging with incredible coordination. Leading the attack was one particularly audacious pilot whose skills defied belief. Again and again, this daring Earthling threaded the point defense cannons on Karos's dreadnought, landing precision strikes on vital systems. Consoles exploded across the bridge as human weapons found their marks. Through the smoke and blaring alarms, Karos frantically analyzed the battle, searching for any weakness to exploit. But the humans refused to fight like any other species the Tellarites had conquered. Their tactics were unpredictable, their resolve unbreakable. As his fleet crumbled around him, Karos began to wonder if the Tellarites' empire had finally met its match. If humans could inspire such fear in the galaxy's mightiest warriors, perhaps subjugation was not the answer. An alliance with Earth might be the only way to save his people from this new threat, or wind up conquered themselves. As the desperate battle raged above Earth, a new player was quietly setting events in motion that would reshape the galactic landscape. Aurelia, a brilliant human diplomat, saw opportunity in the chaos. While Skora and his squadron fought tooth and nail to repel the Tellarites' onslaught, Aurelia reached out through encrypted channels to the Vartians, Credarians, and a dozen other species chafing under Tellarites' oppression. "The time has come to stand together against our common enemy," Aurelia urged Queen Zara of the Vartians. "Humanity is showing the galaxy that the Tellarites are not invincible. With your advanced technology and our combined strength, we can break their hold forever." Zara was hesitant to trust a human, but she could not deny that Aurelia's proposal was tempting. The Vartians had long sought to throw off the yoke of Tellarites' rule. "What would you have us do?" Zara asked. Aurelia smiled. "Share your weaponry and shielding technology with us. Give our pilots a fighting chance. In return, we will stand with you when you rise up against the Tellarites." Skora whooped in delight as his battered fighter surged with newfound power, Vartian tech humming through its frame. His plasma cannons, once barely a tickle against Tellarites' armor, now punched through smoothly. All across the battlefield, human ships darted and weaved with impossible speed and resilience. But the Tellarites were nothing if not adaptable. They quickly adjusted tactics, laying traps and feigning retreats to draw the cocky humans into ambushes. Skora watched in horror as a Tellarites' dreadnought, believed disabled, suddenly lit up and shredded the UNS Dauntless with a point-blank broadside. Several of his wingmates vanished in bursts of flame, their frantic calls for help cut abruptly short. Skora barely made it back to base, his fighter more scrapped than ship. The loss of his friends ignited a burning rage in his gut. Against the protests of his commanders, Skora launched himself time and again at the enemy, taking reckless risks to inflict maximum damage. On the Tellarites' flagship, Commander Karos paced the bridge, face lined with worry. This war was not going at all as he had anticipated. The humans and their new allies were fighting with uncanny coordination and zeal. Even more troubling was the growing unrest among the subjugated species, fueled by Aurelia's underground diplomacy. How much longer until the Vartians or Credarians turned their weapons against their Tellarites' overlords? "We must end this conflict now," Karos argued to the Tellarites' high command. "Humanity has shown they will never bow to us. If we continue to underestimate them, we risk losing everything. We must sue for peace while we still can." Admiral Vrax slammed a fist on the table. "Peace? With those savages? They have defied us, humiliated us. The only course is to redouble our efforts and crush them utterly. Once Earth is a smoking ruin, the rest of the galaxy will remember why opposing us is folly." As the Tellarites' leaders debated and postured, Aurelia and Queen Zara planned what they hoped would be the decisive stroke. In a series of lightning raids, human and Vartian ships would strike at key Terrorized supply lines and infrastructure, while the Credarians and other allies staged uprisings to draw away enemy forces. With the Terrorized war machine crippled, they would have no choice but to negotiate. But on the eve of the operation, an encrypted data burst turned everything on its head. Aurelia stared in disbelief at the decoded message. If this was true, then the Credarians had been in league with the Terrorites from the start, helping them put down rebellions and feeding them intelligence on Aurelia's alliance. Skora slammed a fist into the wall of the briefing room. If we can't trust our own allies, then what chance do we have? This whole thing could be a trap. Aurelia took a deep breath, mind racing. To proceed with the plan could lead them into a devastating ambush, but to abandon it would be to throw away months of preparation and their best shot at forcing a resolution. She looked around the room at the grim, determined faces of the human and Vartian officers, Skora chief among them. "We have come too far to turn back now," Aurelia said. "We will proceed as planned, but with eyes wide open. Trust no one outside this room, and may fortune favor the bold." As the fleets mustered and soldiers steeled themselves for battle, a sense of destiny hung heavy in the air. The next few hours would decide the fate not only of Earth, but of the galaxy itself. And caught in the middle of it all, Commander Kairos could only watch and wait, wondering if his worst fears were about to come to pass. Skora's fighter shuddered as he pushed it to its limits, weaving through the debris field of a shattered Tellarite cruiser. His sensors screamed warnings as enemy fire lanced past, scorching his hull. "Aurelia, we've got a problem," he called over the secure channel. "Our intel was way off. The Credarians aren't where they're supposed to be." "I know," Aurelia's voice crackled back, tense with worry. "Something's not right. Rendezvous at these coordinates. We need to regroup." As Skora banked his craft towards the meeting point, a nagging suspicion gnawed at him. The Credarians' absence felt like more than a simple tactical error. Minutes later, Skora's fighter touched down in a concealed hangar carved into an asteroid. Aurelia was waiting for him, her face grim. "We've been compromised," she said without preamble. "A data burst just came through. The Credarians, at least some of them, they've been working with the Tellarites all along." Skora's fist clenched. "Those treacherous—" "Not all of them," Aurelia cut him off. "We think it's a splinter faction, led by General Vex. But the damage is done. Our entire operation is at risk." Skora paced, mind racing. "So what now? We can't just sit here and wait for the Tellarites to pick us off." Aurelia's eyes glinted with dedication. "We're not. You're going to lead a team into Credarian space. Find Vex, expose his betrayal, and salvage what's left of our alliance." Skora nodded, already planning the infiltration. "And you?" "I'll coordinate with our remaining allies. Try to hold this fragile coalition together until you return." As Skora assembled his team and prepped for the mission, alarms blared throughout the base. On the main view screen, a massive Tellarite fleet dropped out of hyperspace, weapons blazing. "Go!" Aurelia shouted over the chaos. "We'll hold them off. You have to succeed, Skora. Everything depends on it." Skora's stealth shuttle slipped away from the asteroid as explosions bloomed behind them. He gritted his teeth, knowing that every second counted. The fate of Earth, of the entire galaxy, now rested on his shoulders. Deep in Credarian territory, Skora's team moved silently through the shadows of a military compound. Intel suggested General Vex was here, coordinating with his Tellarite handlers. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a squad of Credarian soldiers. For a tense moment, weapons were raised on both sides. Skora stepped forward, hands raised. "We're not here to fight you," he said, voice steady. "Your general has betrayed you, betrayed all of us. Help us expose the truth before it's too late." The Credarian sergeant hesitated, uncertainty clear in his alien features. "Why should we believe you?" "Because if you don't," Skora replied, "billions will die, including your own people." After what felt like an eternity, the sergeant lowered his weapon. "What do you need?" With the reluctant aid of the Credarian soldiers, Skora's team infiltrated the command center. They found General Vex hunched over a holographic display, conferring with a Tellarite officer. It's over, Vex, Skora called out, weapon trained on the general. Your treachery ends here. Vex spun, eyes wide with shock. How dare you? But his words were cut short as his own soldiers surrounded him, weapons raised. We heard everything, General, the sergeant said, disgust clear in his voice. You've sold us out to the Terrorites. You're no better than they are. As Vex was taken into custody, Skora allowed himself a moment of relief. But it was short-lived. His comms crackled to life, Aurelia's voice filled with urgency. Skora, we're under heavy attack. The Terrorites knew about our bases, our supply lines. We're scattered, barely holding on. You need to get back here now. Skora raced back to his shuttle, heart pounding. They'd exposed Vex, but at what cost? As he punched in the coordinates for the jump back to human space, he could only hope they weren't too late. The scene that greeted him upon exiting hyperspace was one of devastation. Broken ships and debris floated silently in the void, testament to the ferocity of the Tellarite assault. Skora's sensors picked up scattered transmissions from the remnants of the rebel fleet, now in full retreat. He spotted Aurelia's command ship limping away from the battle, pursued by a Tellarite cruiser. Without hesitation, Skora threw his shuttle into a steep dive, weapons blazing. His surprise attack gave Aurelia the opening she needed to slip away. Skora, thank the stars, Aurelia's relieved voice came over the comms. We've lost so much, but not everything. Follow me to the fallback point. We need to regroup and plan our next move. As they fled deeper into the system, neither of them noticed the encoded transmission that flashed briefly across their sensors. Commander Karos's plea for a diplomatic solution lost in the chaos of battle. The war for the galaxy's future raged on, with both sides now more desperate than ever. The rebel fleet limped through space, a patchwork of battered ships held together by desperation and ingenuity. Skora's hands flew over the shuttle's controls, coaxing every ounce of speed from the straining engines. Aurelia's face flickered on the interface, her expression grim. We've suffered heavy losses, she said, her voice crackling with static. But there's worse news. Our intel suggests the Tellarites have access to an ancient superweapon. If they activate it... A proximity alert blared, cutting her off. Skora's eyes widened as he saw the source, a small, unmarked vessel broadcasting on a heavily encrypted channel. This is Commander Karos, a familiar voice transmitted. I have critical information. Meet me at these coordinates. Skora's finger hovered over the comm button. It could be a trap. Aurelia shook her head. We don't have a choice. If there's even a chance he's telling the truth, we have to take it. Hours later, Skora found himself in a dimly lit hangar bay alongside Queen Zara of the Vartians. Karos stood before them, his Tellarite's uniform disheveled, eyes haunted. The weapon facility is here, Karos said, projecting a holographic star map, created by a species that predates even the Tellarites. But it's incomplete, missing a crucial component. Queen Zara's eyes narrowed. Why should we trust you? Karos met her gaze. Because I've seen what this war has done, what it will do if we don't stop it. Skora studied the man who had once been his enemy. He saw the weight of guilt etched in every line of Karos's face. We'll need our best for this, Skora said, decision made. A small team, in and out before they know we're there. Queen Zara nodded. My daughter Zora will join you. She's our finest infiltrator. The mission began smoothly. Their stealth ship slipped past the facility's outer defenses, cloaked by Varsian tech. Skora led the strike team through winding corridors, disabling security measures with practiced efficiency. They reached the central chamber, a cavernous space dominated by a towering construct of alien design. Zora whistled softly. That's it? Doesn't look like much. Because it's not complete, Skora replied, studying the readouts on his wrist computer. The power source is... The facility shook violently, alarms blaring. A Tellarite's fleet had emerged from hyperspace, Admiral Vrax's flagship at its head. It's a trap! Zora shouted as explosive charges detonated around them. The chamber began to collapse. Skora was thrown clear, his head slamming against a bulkhead. Darkness swallowed him. He awoke to the cold press of a weapon against his temple. Admiral Vrax loomed over him, Zora held firmly in the Tellarite's grasp. "You've led me on quite a chase, human," Vrax sneered. "But it ends here. Tell me what you know about the missing component, or watch as I break the princess piece by piece." Skora's mind raced. He had to buy time, keep Vrax talking. "You're making a mistake, Admiral. There are larger threats out there than us." Vrax laughed. "Threats? Like what? Some imaginary boogeyman?" "No," a new voice cut in. Kairos stepped from the shadows, his weapon trained on Vrax. "Like the Arcadians." Vrax's eyes widened in genuine shock. "Impossible. They've been in isolation for millennia." "Not anymore," Kairos said grimly. "They're mobilizing as we speak, ready to crush whoever emerges victorious from our petty squabbles." Skora met Zora's eyes, saw the silent question there. He gave an imperceptible nod. In one fluid motion, Zora twisted free of Vrax's grasp, delivering a crushing blow to the Admiral's throat. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Kairos's fingers flew over a nearby console. "I've triggered a cascading systems failure. We need to move now." As they raced through the corridors, Skora grappled with a sickening realization. Vrax had mentioned a human mole, feeding the Tellarites information. Someone he trusted had betrayed them all. They reached the hangar bay, Vrax in tow as their prisoner. Kairos turned to Skora, his expression conflicted. "We can't kill him. He knows too much. About the weapon. About your traitor." Skora's fist clenched, but he nodded. "Fine, but he answers for his crimes when this is over." As their ship blasted free of the disintegrating Tellarites vessel, a priority transmission came through. Aurelia's face appeared, etched with worry. "The Arcadians are on the move," she said. "A massive fleet, unlike anything we've ever seen. They're coming for all of us." Skora exchanged grim looks with his unlikely allies, human, Varshan, and Tellarites. The true test was only beginning. The viewport filled with the imposing sight of the Arcadian armada, their ships like obsidian spears piercing the void. Skora's grip tightened on the controls as Aurelia's voice crackled over the comm. "We've found it," she said, her tone a mixture of relief and trepidation. "The component's location. It's on an uncharted world, practically lifeless." Kairos leaned forward, studying the tactical display. "We'll need a small team, our best. This may be our only chance." Minutes later, Skora found himself aboard a sleek stealth craft, surrounded by the elite of humanity and Varsha. Zora, the Varshan princess, checked her infiltration gear with practiced efficiency. "Remember," Kairos's voice came through their earpieces, "speed is critical. The Arcadians will be right behind us." As they touched down on the barren world, Skora's boots crunched on rocky soil. A vast, featureless plain stretched before them, but his sensors indicated a massive subterranean structure beneath. "There," Zora pointed, her enhanced vision picking out a camouflaged entrance. "The vault." They worked quickly, bypassing intricate security measures. Just as they breached the final door, proximity alarms blared. Skora's blood ran cold as he saw the readings. "Arcadian dropships," he barked. "A full invasion force." The team raced through winding corridors, ancient mechanisms springing to life around them. In the central chamber, they found their prize, a crystalline object pulsing with otherworldly energy. As Zora reached for the component, the ground shook. The vault's defenses engaged, sealing them in. Outside, the sounds of battle erupted. "Skora!" Aurelia's panicked voice cut through the static. "Arcadian forces have engaged. We're outnumbered." He was about to respond when a new transmission came through. Admiral Vrax, his voice strained but resolute. "This is bigger than our petty squabbles," the Tellarite said. "My ships are joining your defense. We cannot let the Arcadians win." Skora exchanged a look with Zora. Their world had shifted yet again. "We've got the component," he transmitted, "but we're trapped. The vaults sealed us in." There was a moment of tense silence before Kairos replied. "I'm sending you the override codes. But Skora, it's a one-way trip. Someone has to stay behind to keep the systems active for extraction." Skora's mind focused. He knew what had to be done. Zora, take the component. I'll cover your exit. The Varshan princess hesitated, then nodded grimly. As she raced towards the opening blast doors, Skora laid down covering fire. Arcadian shock troops poured in, their armor gleaming under the ancient lights. He saw Zora's ship take off, felt a moment of relief. Then his world exploded in fire and pain. Skora awoke to chaos. His fighter was gone, reduced to twisted metal. Around him, human, Varshan, and Tellarite forces fought a desperate holding action against the Arcadian onslaught. He dragged himself to a fallen comrade's radio. "This is Skora. I'm still alive. We need an evac now." In orbit, Aurelia received the component, her heart heavy with the cost. She knew what came next would require an even greater sacrifice. "All ships," she broadcast, her voice steady despite the fear churning inside her. "Prepare for micro-jumps. We're going to punch through their lines." As the battered Alliance fleet assembled, Karos's tactical genius shone. Each jump brought them closer to their goal, but left more ships behind as sacrificial shields. Zora's transport, carrying the precious component, sat at the heart of their formation. Ship after ship fell away, buying time with their final moments. At last, they reached the activation point. Only a handful of vessels remained. Aurelia gave the order, her voice thick with emotion. "All power to the activation beam. Whatever happens, it's been an honor." Energy lanced out, converging on the component. In that moment, as Arcadian bombers closed in for the kill, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a blinding flash, everything changed.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.